Vanessa is today's speaker, and I apologize, I didn't bring your bio with me, so I'm just looking it up. Vanessa Hanks is an independent spiritualist minister through the Healing Light Church in Etna, Maine, and a pagan practitioner. Reverend Vanessa has experienced earthbound spirits since a very young age and practices a niche form of spirit healing called Psychopompery, also called rescue mediumship. Psychopomp work, soul rescue, spirit rescue, ghost rescue, spirit release. You get the point, we got a lot of different names for this. Psychopomps help to heal in tradition earthbound spirits to a higher spiritual plane, sometimes maybe called heaven or the Summerlands. So Vanessa is here to talk to us about what she does and the cool concept of psychopompery, and I'm very excited for this because she's helped teach me. So without any further words, Vanessa.
Hey, thank you. Okay, I'll take a sip of water before I start. So I want to thank the Rochester Spiritualist Society for having me here today to talk about a topic that I am incredibly passionate about. As Deanna said, it's called psychopomp healing work, or psychopompery, or in the mediumship world, rescue mediumship. And this is something I've been doing for roughly the last 10 years. But I did grow up, as I will explain, experiencing unquieted spirits, restless spirits, earthbound spirits. I'm on the hopefully tail end of finishing a book on this topic called the Rainbow Bridge Method. And I will be teaching a class in the fall as well on psychopomp healing work. So let's start with that word, right? Psychopomp. Not many people have heard of psychopomps. It's not something that is a common word in our vernacular. And even within the intuitive realm, the realm of mediumship and energy healing and all those things, people don't come across the term psychopomp very often. So what does that word mean? Well, a psychopomp is a very old word, and it comes from ancient Greek, and it means a conductor of souls. So I love that definition, a conductor of souls. And so what the psychopomp does, or psychopomp beings do, and I say beings because there are living psychopomps as well as spirit psychopomps, and we'll get into that. But what psychopomp beings do is they help to guide the souls of the dead from this place, from Earth, or the spirit realm that overlaps Earth, the lower astral planes, to a higher spiritual realm. So what we would call the heavens, the Summerland, the land of the ancestors. It's that next beautiful place of unconditional love, of perfect peace and understanding, and freedom from life's burdens. Okay, so that is what a psychopomp is. So, like I said, there are living psychopomps, and there are spirit psychopomps, and living psychopomps such as myself work in conjunction with spirit psychopomps. But who are our spirit psychopomps? Who are the beings who come at death to greet the soul and to help them make that smooth transition to the next better place? Well, there's lots of different kinds of psychopomps. Certainly angels are among the psychopomps. So very prolific psychopomps are Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, as you can imagine. And within, Christianity, I would say Mother Mary. She's known for helping lost souls. So she is one of the psychopomps from Christianity. Jesus is sometimes a psychopomp. And for somebody who is a spiritualist and a pagan practitioner such as myself, well, gods and goddesses, deities can be psychopomps. So some of, within our world's mythology, so I think I should explain that. All across the globe, in our world's mythology, our lore, in every religion, there are psychopomps. There are these beings. From ancient mythology, some of the most well-known psychopomp beings would be Anubis from ancient Egyptian lore. So he is the god of mummification and funeral rites. He's the one who comes and he greets the soul and he helps to guide them to a scale. It's called, I think the scale of Mott, I believe is what it's called. And what Anubis does is he takes the heart of the newly deceased person and he weighs it against the feather of Mott. And if the soul is as lighter than a feather, essentially the soul transitions onward to that next beautiful place. Some other psychopomps, Greek mythology, you've got Hermes, so he's got the wings on his feet, and I think on his helmet. You've got Hecate, who is the goddess of witchcraft, but also the goddess of ghosts. From Norse mythology, you've got Odin and Freya and the Valkyries, Hela, and in Vadu, you would have Maman Brigitte, Baron Sedemi. All across the world, like I said, we have our psychopomps, because it's so fundamental to the soul of the journey of the soul. So as long as there have been souls here incarnating on earth, there have been the psychopomp beings who help us to eventually leave this place for the next better place. Just gonna take a little sip. Sorry, I get a little bit shaky when I public speak, because especially in spiritualist churches, one, because I'm a little bit of a nervous public speaker, but two, because the spirit energy is off the hook. Okay? So it's like I'm having spirit energy flow through me and I get a little bit shaky. So I apologize if my voice is such. But I want to talk a little bit. So those are some of our spirit psychopomps. The most common spirit psychopomps who come for us are two different kinds of psychopomps. They are animal psychopomps, and they are our ancestors. Okay, so I have been doing this work for 10 years, and for all of you animal lovers out there, you will be surprised how often your childhood dog, your beloved pet, comes as one of the first souls to greet you and guide you to the next better place. And then, of course, there are the ancestors, right? They are the ones who most commonly come to greet the newly deceased and to guide them to that next better place. Okay, so I wanted to tell a little story of my mom's passing. So my mom passed just a little over a month ago, and as a psychopomp, when it became possible, right, that she was going to pass, we didn't know for sure, kind of took us on a journey, but when it became possible, of course, as a psychopomp, I started to pay attention to the spirit end of things, the energetic side of things. And my mom had gone into the hospital, and then she had come out, and one night I went to sleep, and I slipped into sort of a sleep paralysis state, something that I'll talk about. And in that state, I felt the presence of death. I felt that death was there. I woke up, and I said to my husband, "Death is here." And I know that sounds kind of like a scary thing if you're not a psychopomp, but as a psychopomp, this is not a scary thing. So less than an hour later, my sister called me, and she said, "Mom just collapsed, and we're taking her to strong ICU." And so I already had it in my mind that she may pass. I didn't know this till about a week later, but when I was having that experience, my mom had felt the presence of God, and she saw angels come to get her soul. So even though it was 2.5 weeks prior to her actual passing, the psychopomps were already coming, right? They were already starting to prepare the soul. So 2.5 weeks go by, and my mom's condition is we're not sure if she's improving a little bit, getting worse, but we come in one day and she's markedly worse. She's unconscious, she can't respond to us, and so we feel that things are heading in a certain direction. So that night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was a beautiful, shimmering, yellow spirit in my room. And it was in the shape of a person, and I was seeing it with my eyes. So those of you who study mediumship, we've got our sight up here, and then sometimes spirit appears out here. Well, this was out here, and I kind of went like this to make sure that I was seeing what I was seeing. And I knew it was my mom. I could feel that it was her spirit, and that her spirit was doing the rounds, preparing itself. She was saying goodbye. She was visiting people. So I watched it until the spirit light faded, and I closed my eyes. And who comes? My grandma's dog, Queenie, right? First one to come. And that was my mom's childhood dog, followed by my grandma, my mom's mom, followed by my uncle, followed by more and more family spirits. And they all came to greet her. And, of course, I was sad from a human perspective, right? I'm sad that I'm losing my mother in physical form. But I gotta tell you, and I'm sorry if I get a little teary, she was so happy, beyond happy, the kind of joy that I would not be able to put into words. But she was having an incredible reunion with her loved ones on the other side. These were people who she hadn't seen in a really long time, right? So she's happy as a clam, I'm here, and she's happy. So the next day, we come into the hospital, and the doctors come up to my sister and I, and they say, there's nothing more we can do for your mom. You know, this is gonna be the day. The only thing keeping her alive is what she, you know, the oxygen and the things she was on. So we waited for her brother to come, my uncle. And as we waited, I was paying attention as a psychopomp to the space. Is the space clear? Does the space have a beautiful healing energy in it? Is the light, the portal of light to the heavens, is it strongly open, right? All those things. And I noticed as I scanned the room that my mom's spirit was not in her body. Her spirit was, well, actually on this side, outside to the left of her, right? So even though her body was about to undergo a very difficult birth, right? Because it's a difficult birth into this world, it can be a difficult birth on the body out of this world, but her spirit was not in the body to experience it. She was already outside of her body. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, like a weight, all the ancestors, the psychopomps dropped in. And it was just like that. You could feel them come down. And they took her soul, and she had a beautiful, smooth transition to the other side. So what I'm describing is a form of psychopompery, okay? Now, I am not, let me start here. There are two forms of psychopompery that living psychopomps do. One is being a death doula, a death midwife. That's not the kind of psychopompery that I practice, but that is what I just described to you. The process of being there when somebody is making that birth transition out of physical form into spirit form, right? And death doulas are incredibly compassionate, wonderful people who do very difficult work of working with those who are dying. And they help to make that transition as smooth and as beautiful as possible. And in the process, they are also helping to support the family, comfort them in their grief. So that is the work of a death doula. And so in my own way, I was doing that for my mom. I was doing that by ensuring the space was clear. I was doing that by ensuring the portal of light was open and strong. I was doing that by calling in ancestors. I started to call in the ancestors when it became a possibility. And I did that by saying everything I needed to say to my mother. Now, we all don't have that opportunity, but we know that spirit goes on. And if we didn't have that chance to say it in the moment, we can always say what we need to say to our loved ones in spirit. But that type of work is a personal form of being a death midwife or a death doula. So if I don't do that work, what kind of work do I do? Well, I am a different kind of psychopomp. I am a psychopomp that, like Deanna said, I am something called a soul rescuer, also called a ghost rescuer, a spirit rescuer. So I help the spirits who did not immediately make that transition at death or soon after from this place to the heavens, to the summerlands, to that next beautiful place. And not all souls immediately make that transition, okay? And you may be wondering, well, why do souls not immediately make that transition? You gotta imagine that when that beautiful portal of light opens up and they feel that divine white light and the ancestors and their loved ones come forward and greet them, that pulls at the soul, right? That pulls at the newly deceased soul to leave behind their former life and to make that beautiful journey to the next place where they're supposed to be, right? But not all souls do that. Not all souls are able prior to death to process everything that happened to them in either life or in their death experience. So what am I talking about here? I'm really talking about ghosts, right? Earthbound souls, unquieted souls, lost souls, ghosts. We would call those ghosts. And for as long as there have been humans, we know that there have been ghosts, right? Our stories are full of ghost stories since ancient times. So why do souls become ghosts? Well, there's a lot of individual reasons that souls become ghosts. And because this is so fundamental to the human experience, you all know many of the reasons why souls might become earthbound. We see them in our movies, in our ghost stories. If you watch shows about ghost investigations, we know, right? We know if someone, for instance, experiences a very traumatic death, They were the victim of a crime. They died in a terrible accident. They died in war. We know that that's one of the many reasons why souls might choose not to leave behind their former life. They might not have yet been able to process everything that experienced to them on an emotional level to be able to go to that next better place. Some other reasons that may seem less obvious is fear, okay? Sometimes a soul really strongly fears what's going to happen to them when they go into the light. Maybe they grew up with a religious paradigm that believed in judgment and punishment and hell. And they go, I think I'm going to a good place, but I'm not so sure about this thing. It feels good, but I don't know what's really going to happen to me when I go in there. And so they might not take the light. Some souls didn't believe in a form of spirituality. And they go, I don't even believe in all this spirit stuff. If I go into that light, is that the end of me? Do I cease to exist in the light? They don't have that, they didn't gain that understanding prior to death that there is that next beautiful place. And sometimes spirits don't go because they are attached to a certain part of their former life. So it could be an attachment to loved ones. They may not want to leave their family. They may see that their family is in grief and they love their family so much that they decide to stay here and be close to their family. So children sometimes stay with parents, parents sometimes stay with children, husbands sometimes stay with wives, and etc. And sometimes spirits stay because they are attached to a certain aspect of their former life. So for instance, if they were addicted to something like drugs, they may decide to stay in order to continue, even though they can't, to be around that, to engage in some paled version of that. Now, what I'm describing does not mean that all people, all souls who fall into these categories become earthbound spirits, okay? Plenty of people have had these experiences, plenty of souls have had these experiences, and they have smoothly transitioned to the other side. It's very individual. What will hold one soul here would not hold another. But if I could strip away all of the details, all of the specific reasons in someone's life why they might become earthbound, I can boil it down to one sentence. Spirits become earthbound because they are self-captured, and I stress self-captured because nobody keeps spirits here, right? We all know the only thing that keeps spirit here is their own unresolved issues, okay? There's no angry God, punishing God, that doesn't exist. Spirits stay earthbound because they are self-captured by intense, unresolved emotions about life or death experiences, or they have intense attachments to their former life. That is what causes a soul to maybe not take that light and decide to stay here and become an earthbound spirit. So in psychopomp work, we help those souls. We help those souls to finally let go of the things that have been causing them pain, causing them confusion, causing them to not want to take that beautiful journey to the next place. We help them to heal from some of that. We open that beautiful portal of light. We call forward their psychopomp spirits and their ancestors. We watch as they're greeted, and we watch as they make that final transition to the higher spiritual plane, and we close the portal. So, pretty simple work, right? Simple work is not always easy work. And there's many reasons why this work is not easy, but the process is very simple, okay? But I don't have time to go into all that. What I want to say about this work is that this work is inextricably tied to earth healing. So psychopomps are not only soul healers, we are also earth healers. Because when you help spirits who have been captured by intense, unresolved emotions, heavy emotions, and they may reside in a home or on land, when we help them to transition, we lighten not only that soul, but we lighten the place where that soul resided. And in the process, we are providing energetic room for beautiful things to grow, for there to be harmony where there was once discord. And so this work is both soul healing and it is earth healing. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. So how did I come to this work? I can tell you that I always say I was a reluctant medium, and I was definitely a reluctant psychopomp. I did not come into this world saying, I think I want to help souls transition into the light. That's not how it worked for me. But Spirit sort of had me pegged for this work at a pretty young age. And just because it happened this way for me, with what I'm about to describe, doesn't mean that it's going to happen this way for someone else. Anybody who's inspired by this work can open up to this work and learn how to do this work. But for me, I came into this world really experiencing unhealed spirits. So from the age of about 3 or 4, I was having pretty intense reoccurring sleep paralysis, which is a term some of you may be familiar with and some of you may have experienced. And so sleep paralysis is when you are in a semi-dream state or in a dream state and you suddenly become conscious, but you can't move your body, right? So I see some nods. I know some people have experienced this. And what that is the telltale sign of is that you are an astral traveler, okay? So that is the gift that is the gift of the psychopomp. We are astral travelers. And you can either come into this world sort of with that heightened gift, just like you can with the heightened gift of mediumship, or you can learn it. You can learn to do this. And just when I say astral travel, I just want to clarify that I'm not talking about a full out-of-body experience. What I'm talking about, I have those sometimes, but what I'm really talking about is the ability to project your spirit, your consciousness, your intuitive senses into the spaces around you, okay? To travel in your dreams, and when you are going places in the day, kind of feeling the spaces. That's the kind of astral travel that I'm talking about. It does not have to be a full out-of-body experience, but that is the gift of a psychopomp. So I had recurring sleep paralysis. I saw shadow people all the time. I had black and gray orbs in my room. I had spirits kind of reaching for me. I didn't have my beloved grandmother by my bed at night. And so as uncomfortable and as frightening as that sounds, it is still a beautiful gift. But that is how it can manifest sometimes for people called to this work. They have a bit of an initiation with unquieted and unhealed spirits, but eventually, if you go down the road, just like with mediumship, of opening to spirit and learning about it, you find that this is a path to incredible healing, both for the spirits you help, the earth, for yourself. It is an incredible journey, an incredible journey into the journey of the soul, right? Into what happens in life, death, and beyond to the soul. You make incredibly strong spirit allies. The benefits of this work outweigh those sometimes uncomfortable encounters. So that's how I grew up. And eventually I had an uncomfortable experience that got me to a spirit medium. And that was a spiritualist minister at a local spiritualist church. And she said, well, you're a spirit medium and you need to open up to your gifts. And by the way, we're teaching an 8-week class on Introduction to Mediumship that I took with Craig. And that was where it began. And in that class, they were teaching what you all are very familiar with. They were teaching evidential mediumship, right? So it's the kind of mediumship that you'll see up here on the platform. It's the kind of mediumship that happens when you go and get a reading. But that was not what my spirits had pegged for me. So the first week, we're opening up to doing evidential mediumship, and I was having angelic beings coming to me, and they were just like this, handing me a soul, cradled in their arms as if this was the most precious cargo in the world. And I said, okay, thank you. What do you want me to do with this soul? And they explained to me that these were earthbound spirits, and they wanted me to help heal them and transition them into the light. So even though I had opened up initially to learn evidential mediumship, Spirit was like, no, you're over here. You're a rescue medium. So I want to end today with talking about the difference between these two practices, right? Because how do you know? How do you know if you are an evidential medium, a rescue medium? If you want to do both, because you can do both. I like to do both. But how do you know where one begins and the other ends? So the purposes of this work are very different, and how we do this work is very different. So let's start with purpose. The purpose of evidential mediumship, as you all are well aware, is to heal the living of grief and to provide proof of life after death, right? And we do that through bringing through evidence that a certain spirit is speaking, where we can't know that that is going to be meaningful to the sitter, right? But the person who comes for the reading, it's meaningful to them. They can validate it. It's information we can't know, but they know. And that is the purpose of evidential mediumship. It is to help the living to truly know that there is a spirit world beyond this, that there is life after life, and through that, to help them heal from some of the grief they feel over physically losing people in this world. It's not the purpose of rescue mediumship. It's wonderful healing work that I love to do, but it is not rescue mediumship. The purpose of rescue mediumship is to heal and transition earthbound spirits, and in the process, to clear and heal spaces and places. So you can see the purpose is very different. In rescue mediumship, we're not relying on evidence as much as we are with evidential mediumship, because we're not trying to convince anyone. Our role is as a psychopomp to essentially transition, to guide the soul from here to there, and in the process to heal that soul and heal land. How the work is done is also very different. In evidential mediumship, I am raising my vibrations because the spirits who I'm communicating with, they're in a higher spiritual realm, right? And they're not really up there, but they're in a realm that is defined by that beautiful love energy, that beautiful peace energy. And so I have to raise my vibrations to try to match. I will never match it entirely. We always talk about meeting in the middle in mediumship, but I'm having to raise my vibrations to better match the energy of crossed over loved ones who are there. I then invite them in, right? I'm inviting them into my energy field. I'm merging, I'm blending with them, and then they are delivering messages through my mental capacity and my intuitive senses. So that's evidential mediumship. I do none of that in rescue mediumship. I never raise my vibrations because the spirits aren't there. The spirits are here, right? So I don't have to raise my vibrations. If I raise my vibrations, I will miss them completely, right? I won't even perceive them. They're here. So instead, through astral projection, I am astral projecting in the spaces out laterally beside me, and I am perceiving earthbound spirits, and then I'm doing that process that I described of opening the light and helping those spirits to transition onward. I never invite them into my space to merge with me, and that is for reasons that I don't have time to get in today, but you can see I'm communicating with the spirit in a very different place. In evidential mediumship, I'm in a receptive state. In rescue mediumship, I'm in an outward active state, right? They're very different practices. So to end today, I just want to say that we can help, right? So if what I've taught you about inspires you or you're curious about, we can help the spirits here, the spirits who are among the most struggling spirits in the world to find peace. Now, when you connect with the energy of earthbound spirits, guess what? Ghosts don't feel good, right? Their energy does not feel good. And this causes many people to fear ghosts, to not want to work with ghosts. But just because those ghosts' energy does not feel good does not mean that they are not someone's mother, father, sister, brother, friend, that they are not someone's loved one, right? And it doesn't mean that they're not worthy. All souls are worthy. All souls are worthy of healing. All souls are worthy of the light. And through this work, we help souls who are stuck in some of the most difficult parts of the human condition, some of the hardest things that souls can experience when they incarnate on earth. We can help them to finally let go of their burdens and find peace. So I'll leave with that. Thank you.